Hey, welcome back to my channel. We have a little bit of guts here that's going to go into this frame. This is the IS-100 stack. So you have the FPV flight controller and ESC, and then I opted to go with the Speedy B. Just gonna have to jump in here real quick. I apologize. I say Speedy B quite a few times in the video instead of re-recording it. It's just every time I say Speedy B, think AKK FX3 Ultimate VTX. I apologize about that. VTX, because the original VTX that came with it was garbage, or at least I didn't much care for it, so I changed out to the Speedy B. We're gonna use the original beeper and LED lights, and so basically I'm gonna go through these guts, kind of tell you what I've done, why I did it, and then direct you to some other videos that, in case there's some other questions. And then this frame, I've already done a review, so there's no reason to go over that if you want to check that out. And so basically, we're taking our SkyStars X120 bolt, and we're turning it into a 3-inch because it was 2.5 inch. It was running these GemFan 2540 props. Okay. So I'm going to go through the guts real quick. I'm going to put everything in, and then I'm going to set up a model on my QX7, and then we're going to go into Betaflight and make sure everything is doing what we want it to do. I'm going to use an XM Plus receiver. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started here. So this stack here is the IS-100. Okay. So SPIDX, it's kind of an older stack, but it was used in the SkyStars X120 bolt. I'm going to go through the wiring and how I've got this hooked up, and then here's the prop choice that I'm going with. So this is an HQ 3x2 biplane. These motors are really notchy. These motors are unlike, I mean, they're 1106 with 4500 kV, and they are something. But they do get a little bit warm on that 2540 prop. So 25 millimeter diameter, 4 millimeter pitch. So I'm going to go with a 3-inch prop, which isn't, I mean, we're not talking drastic difference. I don't know if the lighting allows you to see that. Transparent. Move that out of the way. So there's not a whole lot of difference in the size. This prop is actually a little bit lighter, and with the 2 millimeter pitch, I think it's going to give us a pretty nice flight. I'm not really looking for screaming speed. I'm looking to just have a better experience. So we're also going to update this board to the newest firmware. We have to look in Betaflight to see what they got. And then the iFlight IX3 version 3 frame. I have a video on that if you want to look at the specs and, you know, just what my thoughts were on the frame. So let's go through these guts real quick, and we'll see what wires went where and why. And then I'm going to go ahead and get everything put in here. And the XM Plus, we're going to use a RunCam Swift with a 2.1 millimeter lens. I like the Swift. It has such a smooth look. And then we're going to hook up the beeper and stuff. For this build, it's not too bad because I've already connected everything, and then the rest are just regular connectors. So all right, let's zoom in here and take a look at the stuff here. Hopefully that's zoomed in good for you. So here's the ESC. Okay, so I've already tinned the ESC. Okay, so this is the bottom. And then I have my XT30 going to the power, and then I have a capacitor, and this is just a 470. It goes directly to the camera. Okay, so I've just got that wired in. And then I've done a video, if you go check it out, on a redundant ground. Okay, explains everything what's going on here. You may not understand that, but that's an extra ground strap, because this Molex, just that little ground on there is just not enough. So go ahead and check that video out if you're curious about that. And then here's the stack. Okay, these two components here is the flight controller and the VTX. This flight controller has an arrow right here. Okay, so it's pointing forward that direction. Okay, and right in front of that arrow is a pinout, and I didn't have very much luck with that pinout. It just got bent, and one of these pins broke. So I sheared those all off, and then I've direct soldered. So I have ground, I have 5 volt, and I have my video out. Okay, and then here underneath, you can see here, that's the T6 pad. So that's the smart audio for the VTX. And then also they have these jumper pads. So battery voltage is what I'm running. Now I don't have the camera power hooked up to this Molex. I only have a ground and the video in coming from the camera. Okay, so I'm not powering it. So this is battery. If I put a wire in here and run, you know, to the camera, that would be battery voltage, because I've spread these two pads together. And then we have battery voltage going to the VTX. You can't do that on the regular VTX, the one that came with it. This one here, this is only 5 volt, so you have to use that 5 volt. So you'd have to put these two together and not these two. Okay, does that make sense? But this Speedy Bee can handle 7 to 28 volts. So I have this power wire here is supplying battery voltage, and I'm running 4S on this. Okay, 650 4S battery. And then on the Speedy Bee, we have power coming in, a ground coming in, and then this is video coming in, and then this is the ground wire for the camera. I opted to power the camera off the VTX because this Speedy Bee has a pretty nice filtration going on. And then a power wire for the camera. And then the smart audio. And that's it for the Speedy Bee. That's all the wires that are hooked up to that. Okay. This build, I'm going to use this antenna. So I'm going to use the UFL. If I choose not to like that very much, I do have a MMCX, and I do have a right-hand polarized MMCX connector. So that's one thing that's nice about this Speedy Bee. It gives you both options. So you turn this over here, you can see MMCX and UFL. So pretty nice. It also has a microphone. I'm not going to say it's like, you know, super quality, but it does a pretty decent job. I thought about putting a piece of foam in there just to see if it would help. And then you can see all the ground strapping here. Like I said, I got a video on that. If you check it out, video, what was it? FPV video issues fixed is the video. So check that out. But yeah, if you have any questions about this, this combination, or even the original VTX that came into it, I did some work on that and finally figured out what was going on with it, and I still don't like it. Okay, so that's the guts that we're going to put in here into that frame. And as far as the receiver goes, it plugs in right here. All right, so we'll get this all set up here. First thing I want to do is get the VTX in. It's going to go in just like so. Get all these wires out of the way here. And then this capacitor is basically going to go in the frame like that. Okay. Just going to push these wires out of the way and then secure it to that standoff. Okay. Then the battery lead, I'm going to zip tie it to this arm. So let's go ahead and get these standoffs put in. Now the standoffs underneath are the original standoffs that come with this frame, and they are 4.5 millimeters, so they're pretty short. All right, so we have the 4.5 millimeter going from the frame to the ESC, and then from the ESC to the flight controller 7 millimeters. So I'm going to use a 7 millimeter standoff. Sorry, let me put this over here. So that's the standoff that comes with the frame. And then this is the standoff that I'm using between the ESC and flight controller. And then between the, so that's a 6 millimeter that's going between the flight controller and the ESC. Now you can pick these up in an assortment pack, or you can kind of see I've put a nut on the top of that middle one to make it 7 millimeters. Okay, and that way it fits nice. The stack height on this frame is pretty nice, so we should be able to get everything to fit in there. So let's go ahead and put our standoffs in. All right, standoffs are in, and now the flight controller. You can see right here there's an arrow pointing toward the front of the board. Okay, so we're going to place that just like so. Okay, and then this is going to be our VTX with our redundant ground going in there. Okay, and then we have our camera. So for now, we're just going to set that out of the way so we can get all our motor wires soldered in. Okay. Now these motor wires originally, you can see that they are cut at an angle. So you have to make sure that you get the right one in the right spot so that the longer wire will reach. Unfortunately, they won't go around the standoff under there nice and neat. I'm going to have to put them in the front, but it shouldn't look too bad. It'll be kind of like that. You can extend these, or you can get a little trace here with an LED on it, to put on your arm. So you can cut these wires and then put that little LED in between. I opted not to do that. I'm just going to have the motor wires run straight to the ESC. So we'll go ahead and get those put on. All right, we got the motor wires on. Unfortunately, I didn't get the recording as I put it together. But as you can see, she's all tucked away. Now, just kind of want to go through some stuff here, because basically what we were dealing with before was a SkyStar's X120 bolt, and I could not get my camera to give me enough tilt. I couldn't get the receiver to fit inside, so for the camera to tilt, I had to put my receiver out on the top. So, kind of sick of that. But I just want to show you something about this frame that I'm kind of impressed. I was a little worried that I wouldn't be able to get my camera tilt. But you can see, get that prop out of the way. You can see inside there. You see that camera? You can slide that camera forward and backward. You see how much tilt that, that goes up quite a ways. That's about maxed out, and the only reason it maxes out is because of this little nub out here. I've kind of shaved that off, but I don't really fly with that much up tilt anyway. But it's nice to be able to get that camera angle just about where I want it, or I couldn't do that before. And then also to have the XM Plus underneath it. I'll give you a close up of that. It's got the XM Plus right underneath there, so it all fits pretty nice. Then we got the capacitor back here on the back, all strapped in. I've got a little bit of Gorilla adhesive holding that on. So let's go through real quick. I just wanted to show you, this is with the 4S battery on it, what it looks like. So we have a wire strap holding that wire down so that it can't go up into the prop. There's really no way for that battery lead to get up into the prop. And then wire tie on the top here. It's really rigid side to side, but it's pretty spongy. So if I were to hit it on something, it's just going to bounce off and come back. I've always kind of liked doing that. But you can see everything fits in there. I guess you can say this is how you fit 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound box. Got our LEDs and our beeper wire strapped, and then I put some of that Gorilla adhesive in between there. If you're not familiar with that Gorilla adhesive, I just really like this stuff. It's Gorilla, it's called Tough and Clear, or Clear and Tough, and it's a double-sided adhesive, poster adhesive, and it is sticky, but you can pull it off pretty easy if you want. So I have my camera, my run cam. This is my little camera adjuster there. The receiver plugs in right there, but you can see how I ran those motor wires. So not too bad. Now I have the props on, and I have a battery on it, so you can kind of get a good look at how that frame turned out with all the guts. I'm going to take the battery off and get a weight for you. I'm going to leave the strap on here, because you're going to definitely need to have some sort of strap on there. So the weight of it is 104 grams. So with a 4S 650 battery, it's going to come in at 171. So not super light, a little bit, just a little heavier than what the other one was. But yeah, this is running a 3x2 prop now. So I need to take the props off because we need to get into Betaflight. And do some settings in there. What I want to do is see what the update firmware is capable on this stack. This 20x20 stack is the SpeedX IS100. You can see I've packed it in pretty good. This has turned out a lot better than the original SkyStars X120 bolt, as far as being able to put everything in there and get everything, situated and have enough space to move your camera around. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the props off, and then we'll go ahead and jump over here to Betaflight and check to see what the update is, ability for that, because I'm thinking this IS100 SpeedX stack is still being sold, so hopefully we'll be able to get an updated version of that. Okay, let's jump over to Betaflight. Alright, so we're over here at Betaflight. We're going to go ahead and plug the quadcopter in. I have a fan blowing on it in the background. So we got our COM port. Go ahead and connect. We're going to run over here to CLI, and we're going to type in version. Alright, so Betaflight, and it's the Omnibus, that's the target, Omnibus F4SD. Okay, so we need to remember that. January 10, 2018. Okay, right now we're running 3.2.4 Betaflight, so I'm going to update this to the latest version of Betaflight, see if we can get some better performance and whatnot out of it. But yeah, we need to remember this information here, so I'm going to write that down. Alright, we're going to disconnect, and then we're going to unplug it, and I have a pair of tweezers. I'm going to jump, on the top of that flight controller, there's a boot pads. There's two little boot pads. Just stick a metal tweezers, jump them, and then when you plug in, you should have DFU mode come up, and you don't need your tweezers anymore. Put the quadcopter back in front of the fan. Keep all them components cool as you can. Okay, so we're in DFU, so we're ready to do some updates. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to try to find my... Alright, so Omnibus F4 SD. Okay, that's the one we want. So we're going to choose that. And then the version. So right now, I'm running 3.2. It's not even showing up in here. Or 3.5.2. Yeah. So we're going to run the latest version. And then full chip erase. We're going to load the firmware. So that firmware, we're going to load that up off the internet. So now we go ahead and flash it. So we're erasing. Then after erasing, it'll come up flashing, so it'll go across here. So it'll be completely updated. We'll have new parameters to play with. Okay, so programming successful. You heard the chirps in the background. Okay, so we're all done in here. Now it reset already. It's ready to go in and connect. So we can go over here to welcome. COM9 is already up. We connect. And now we just make sure our orientation, left, right, back, forward. Okay, so looking good there. Ports tab. Now it basically reset all of these ports tab. Okay. So we know that serial RX1 is for our receiver. And then we know we have smart audio on TBS smart audio. I don't have Tramp. The TX is smart audio. So that's on T6 pad. And then I don't think on this one, if I remember right, I don't have anything hooked up to RX TX3. So we'll just go ahead and leave that alone for now. Got an extra UART, you know I'm going to have to use it for something. Okay. So we're going to come over here to configuration. And this ESC is BOHeli S. So the SpitX IS100 stack, it comes with a BOHeli S ESC that can handle up to 600 D-shot. I'm going to go for 300. And I do want motor stop on because I like to land up on my deck. And then the ESCs are in reverse prop configuration. Okay. And we'll come down here. Number of motor poles. Okay. So we're going to count the magnets on these 1106. So after counting the magnets, we have 12 magnets on the 1106, and we don't have any of this. Motor idle throttle value. I like 4.5 for this one. That's just something that I know that 4.5 seems to work better. Otherwise, it wants to lift off a little bit. And then the board configuration is correct. So I'm going to slide down here. I don't have a barometer or a magnetometer, but I may like to, fly a different mode. I'm going to go 4K on the speed here. And then arming angle 180. So I can arm it up in a tree. I'm gonna put our craft name in there. All right, I like air mode on a switch. I always want anti-gravity OSD, and then there's no telemetry for XM Plus. But if you put an RXSR in here, you want to turn that on. Telemetry, we'll go ahead and turn that on. LED strip, multicolor LEDs. I have a programmable LEDs in the back. We can program that to do something. All right, so everything else looks right. Beeper both of those on because I have a switch I'm going to set up for the beeper. And then you can see here we're running about 9%, so I'm just going to leave these on. Save and reboot. I'm going to go back, go into configuration, and then I'm just going to check to make sure that receiver, we want to have S bus, and then we're going to have S bus here. Okay, that's for the XM Plus. And go ahead and connect power and battery. So I'm running a 654S on this, minimum cell voltage. And then the warning, I'm going to do a lot of punch outs, so I just want a warning to let me know when that's going. I don't run high volt, so I'm going to set 4.3 is good. Okay, and then I'll get in here and check maybe a little bit of this stuff later, but for now that's set up good enough. Save, and then PID tune. I'm gonna run these PIDs. I'm just gonna see. It's gonna take some flights to really see what's going on there. So in here in the rates, we're gonna turn these up to 92. Okay. And then we'll see how it flies and see what we like, you know, what we want to do, if we want to change anything else. That should be good enough for now. Let's see what it does. And then receiver, I still have to set up the Tranus. So let's go jump back to the bench and set up the transmitter so we can run everything we need to run in here. All right, back over here at the bench, we're going to set up a model on this. Okay, so we have XM Plus, FR Sky XM Plus, and that's going to an Omnibus F4 SD flight controller, which is the IS-100 stack. I just want to show you real quick. I think I forgot to show you what we're doing here. Let me zoom in. Okay, if you look right here, you see that those two little pads right there? Just take like a metal tweezers, like that. And you just touch those two pads at the same time with your tweezers while you power it up. That's how you get it to go into boot mode and DFU when you plug into your computer, holding those two pads with your tweezers. Make sure you don't touch anything else. But once you go into boot mode, that's how you do your update on this board. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this aside for now. Let's go ahead and power on our transmitter.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Okay. You can see here Mobula pick. Have you seen this little guy yet? That's a Mobula 6 turned into a pickle pick. I have a video on that, build and flight, so go check that out. It's a lot of fun. That thing is really a little ripper. Just to give you an idea. Here's the Mobula 6. So, oops. So yeah, a lot of fun. Both of them are a lot of fun. Unfortunately, if you let the battery voltage run down too far, it wipes out some settings in Betaflight. So I don't know. It's hard for me to recommend something that does that. Anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit that center button. We're going to roll down. We're going to create a new model. We're going to go over here to multi. And then channel 1 for throttle. So hit page. Roll is going to be channel 2. Pitch is going to be channel 3. Yaw is channel 4. Okay, that's our lineup. Okay. Long press. I don't want to back it up or copy it. That's fine. Page. And then we're going to name this. I'm going to call this 4S toothpick. All right. Nice long name. So roll back here. All right. We're in internal RF. I don't have anything Just ain't got the money for that crossfire, you know what I mean? So, and this is RX number 14. Before I forget, I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna go no pulse on my failsafe. So now we can bind it. So I'm gonna hit that button, and then the bind button on my XM Plus is right there. So I'm just gonna plug it into the computer to power it up. All right, so we have a solid green blinking red. Okay, so that's bound up now. So take the power off, power it back up. I hope you can see that little green light right here. Solid green. Okay, so we're bound up to our receiver. So we can go ahead and throw the quadcopter and all that, unplug it, and it can sit over there for now while we get the rest of this set up. Okay, so we're done in this screen. So at page, we're not doing a helicopter. Flight modes we ain't worried about. Now we've got the first four, so TAER. So we need to remember that for later. So input, I'm gonna arm it first. So this is input 5. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the name, and I'm gonna name it arm. Okay, because that's we gotta have a way to arm it. Okay, and then the switch I arm with is this switch all the way forward. Okay, some people use that one. Do you notice that? Depending on what switch you set. Okay, so this is a switch we're gonna use. So that's the one I'm gonna choose. Exit, and then 6. This is just how I do it. Done it this way for a long time. So, and then we're gonna name this one modes. Oh, I'd like that. I'm gonna have all the modes. You don't have to do this if you just run acro all the time. You don't need your modes. But I like to have all 3 modes. Why not? All right, and then I want this switch to run my modes. Okay. So exit out of there. The next one, should be up to 7 here. All right, and then I am going to run a beeper. All right, and then when I pull this switch halfway up, so right before I arm, I'll have the beeper go off. That's arm. So beeper and arm. So that's the switch I want to use. Okay. So number 8. And then we're going to call this air mode. I like to put air mode on a switch. I don't like air mode on all the time because I like to land on a deck that's up in the air. I don't like it bouncing around while I'm sitting up there with it. All right. So we're going to call that air. And then this is the switch I want to use. So when I'm landing, you know, I'm armed, I'm flying. Okay, and then when I land, I pull that up. I set the quad all the way down, and I stop the motors. I disarm. Okay. Sometimes if I'm in an open area or whatever, I just come in for a landing and disarm. But at least I have that option to be able to do that. We're also going to use this switch for something else. I'll show you in Betaflight. Okay. So exit. So we have our ability to arm it. We have our ability to do the modes. We have a beeper. And we have air mode switch. And now we want to set up turtle mode. Okay. So we're going to go A9. All right. And then I'm going to call this turtle. Flip over when crash, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And then I like to use a switch that's not normally like when I'm flying. Not a switch I'm not gonna mess with this switch too easy. Okay. So this is the switch I'm gonna end up using. So you can see here, SC is the switch. So that'll be turtle mode. Okay. that's about it for this. You know, those are going to be the 9 channels I'm going to use. So we have all those setups. Now we need to go into page and come over here, and this is the mixer. This is how the communication happens with the receiver channels in Betaflight. So we just need to initiate those, basically. All right, so now you can see we have all our mixers. So if you hold down on the page button, it'll go back, and there's inputs. So all 9 of those inputs are also in here in the mixer tab. Okay, so they're all ready to go. So I'm going to page one time over. Outputs. I'm not going to mess with this yet. I need to go into Betaflight and see where the receiver is. If you go all the way down or all the way up, you should be at 2000. You should be at 1000. And you can come in here and you can change these, just the first 4. Don't mess with the other ones. Just the 1, 2, 3, 4. And you have your minimum and your maximums. So your minimums should be all 1000 and your maximum should be all 2000. And you can adjust it in there. All right, and then curves I'm not going to mess with. Logic switches I'm not going to mess with. Special functions I may end up playing around in here. I don't know if I want the transmitter yelling at me. Telemetry, this is an XM Plus receiver, so there's no telemetry, and we're done. Okay, so 4S toothpick is ready to go back to Betaflight and finish the setup. All right, so back over here to Betaflight. We're in the receivers tab, and then we're going to go straight to channel mapping. When we set the model up, remember the TAER, okay? That's where that goes. Now hit save, okay? You see these switched around. So now throttle up, throttle down, yaw left, yaw right, and then pitch forward, pitch back, left and right roll, okay? So that I move the sticks and it does what it's supposed to do. If you have this out of order or this is goofy, then these first 4 are not going to work correctly for you. See, channel 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you set your model up, you need to make sure you remember what that is. For me, it's TAER. Okay? And then you see this little thing dancing around down at the bottom here. This AUX 12. Okay, that's your RSSI. If you have an XM Plus connected to your flight controller and it's not dancing, none of these are dancing, then you need to do a firmware update on your XM Plus. Okay? But don't go to V2. Go one below that. I think it's 17.313 or something. But you need to do an update on your XM Plus to make sure that you get RSSI to come in. Okay? And we're just going to set that. Hit save. So now that the OSD information in your goggles will have RSSI value in it. Okay? So now when we turn our switch on, okay, flip 1 on. So that AUX 1 is our arming, and then AUX 3 is our beeper. Remember how we set up 2 on the same switch? So that how we have these 2 options. So we need to write that down. Arming is 1 and beeper is 3. Our modes tab, so angle, horizon, acro, okay? And then our flip over when crash, and then our air mode, and then I'm going to show you something else in there. Okay, so we got everything on switches there. So let's go over to, we hit save because we made some changes in here. Go over to modes tab, and we're going to add a range for arming. See how it says auto? So go ahead and flip your arming switch all the way forward is where I want it. You can pick whatever switch you want and what position you want, but that's the arming switch that I want. So when I flip that switch off, it disarms. Beeper, it's beeping, but it's not armed, okay? Same switch, right? So let's go down here to beeper so we don't get confused. All right, here's our beeper. We're going to add a range, auto, same switch. In the middle is where I'm going to have a beeper. So if I'm in the grass or something, I just flip that up, okay? Hit save. Hear that beeper? All right. So now whenever you flip up, there's the beeper, okay? Now, let's go up here and set our modes tabs. Now keep in mind it's not going to arm. See, it's disabled. It's plugged into the computer. It won't arm. Plus you got your props off, right? Alright, add a range for angle and horizon. Switch on auto. So that switch that We're gonna choose, slide that all, I got the switch all the way back. You do the position the way you want, whatever position you want that in. Okay, I want it all the way down for angle mode. I want it in the middle for horizon. Okay. Good grief. Come on. Alright, and then all the way forward is acro, which 99% of the time I'm in acro mode, but sometimes I like to have those other modes handy for diagnostic purposes, whatever. But if you don't set up angle and horizon, if you don't set up a modes, then the quadcopter is going to always be in acro. Okay? It's default in acro mode. So now we're going to slide down here. We got our beeper done, and now we're going to go to air mode. I like air mode on a switch. I like to be able to turn it off if I want. So that switch that we set up for air mode, so when the switch is all the way down, I'm not touching the switch, air mode is on. Okay? But if I pull that switch up, it turns air mode off for me, so the thing ain't bouncing around on the deck. Okay? And then we're going to come down here a little bit further and do flip over when crash, so turtle mode. Okay, so we're going to add a range for that, and that's that one switch that's kind of out of the way. If I pull that switch all the way forward, it'll go into turtle mode for me. Okay, so let's save. And now you see this right here. So now we come down here to pre-arm. That same switch that we use for air mode, I want that pulled up for pre-arm. Okay, so over here we're gonna pre-arm our quadcopter. So we pull that up and then we're armed. Okay, let me save that real quick. Pull up on that, and then see it's ready to arm that way, and that way it never, you know, accidentally arms. So you got to have both switches going at the same time. So we're done in modes tab. Let's go down here to motors. Okay, in the motors tab, we need to, we're still connected to the computer USB, but we need to plug in a battery. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what, your props better be off. You do not want to mess around in here with your props on. Okay, so I got a fan blowing on the quadcopter. I'm gonna plug in a battery, and we're still plugged into the computer. Alright, you heard all 5 tones. That means we're good. Okay, yes, I understand I have my props off. I'm not stupid. Alright, we're gonna spin up motor. This is slider 1. Okay, this is a slider, and this is the motors 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're in reverse prop configuration. Let's make sure that this is right. So we're just gonna, okay, motor 1 spinning up, so that's good. Now what direction is it spinning? Should be spinning counterclockwise, and it is. Okay, so that's good. Slider 2. So this one here is going to spin counterclockwise. That one's going to spin counterclockwise. Clockwise, clockwise. Okay, we just tested it and made sure all was good. And I'm just going to run all motors, make sure one's not twitchy. Alright, all good in the motors tab. So now we didn't chain anything or do anything, we just tested. I'm going to go into OSD. And now this is something that's total custom job, whatever, but video format, what camera did you put in it? Okay, I put a Swift in there, and the Swift that I bought was an NTSC, not a PAL camera. So I want to choose that. I don't want it to auto detect. I want it to know I bought that camera, so I'm going to set it that way. Okay, and then all these different items here, you can fill this thing up until you can't see where you're going if you want. So I'm going to kind of leave that up to you. I'm going to set it up the way I want to, though. So I have it set up, my VTX channel, what mode I'm in, RSSI value. I like to have the horizontal bar, because if my accelerometer is goofy and this thing's, you know, at a cross, you know, and I'm thinking it's okay, and then I flip it in the horizon or angle mode, and that bar's going up and down, that quad's going to take off. It's not going to be good. So this tells you where your accelerometer thinks is level. So it's good to have. Voltage alarm, you know, in case you're into it. Fly minutes, that tells you how long you've been armed. And then an amp reading. Average cell, you know, tells you what your average cell for your battery is. And then throttle, where my throttle value is. This is kind of the information I like to put in, because if someone's watching a video of mine, they can kind of see some of those parameters. So that's kind of how I like to set it up. And you want to do this with your goggles, you know, to make sure that it's in the spacing and everything looks good. Okay, hit save when you're done. This is kind of the best I can do for you, but just to give you an idea, if you go into smart audio, okay, and then you go down to features, you go to smart audio here, and if you don't have any of this information in here, that's because the VTX table's not set up. Sorry, this is blurry, but the lens these are my spectator goggles. Okay, so if this information's not reading in here, that's why you have to set up that table correctly. Okay, go to video transmitter, and nothing is set up in here. Okay, and instead of going in and manually setting everything up, we can go to this page right here. And it'll pop up a screen here, and you can come down and pick your smart audio. Okay, I know that my VTX is smart audio, and I know that it's 2.0. So I live in the United States, so so we're gonna right click, save link. Okay, hit save. Go back in here, and we're gonna load from file. Okay, so now it's put everything in there that we need. Okay, but my VTX also says that I have 4 here, so I can go ahead and change that to this is going to be 25, and then my VTX, you know, I'm reading my instructions. It says 200, and then 400, and 600 milliwatts. Okay, everything else is set up. Okay, everything in here looks good. And then right now I'm set up on race band 2. I've already looked at my goggles, and I already know that I'm set up on that. Alright, so we're set up on channel 2, and then we're going to go 25 milliwatt, because that's what I'm set up in. Okay, I'm not using pit modes or anything. So everything's set up now for the VTX table. Okay, so that's all set up. Then I have LED strips on the back of my quadcopter. I've got 2 LED strips, so I'm gonna initiate those. I'm gonna grab that one and then slide over, so I got the 2 there. Okay, and then what function do I want them to be color, and then when I hit the throttle, it'll change colors. Okay, so it'll go, I'm gonna pick blue for the starting color. So as I hit the throttle, it's going to change colors. So that's kind of neat. So hit save. Oh, the LEDs came on. All right. And then we're going to type in dump. All right. We got our dump file. We're going to grab all of that, and we're going to copy to clipboard, and then paste that information. I like to use OneNote and paste it in there, and then label it, you know, the quadcopter, whatever I called it, 4S toothpick or whatever. So then I'll have a dump file in here. So we're pretty much done with Betaflight, so we can go ahead and had to jump in here real quick in configuration because we're using motor stop and we have air mode on a switch. We need to turn a beeper off here. Armed, so warning beep when the board is armed with the motors off. If you have that on, every time you land with your and you pull your throttle all the way down but you're still armed, it'll just sit there and beep, and it's annoying. So make sure you turn that off and then hit save and reboot. Okay? Alright, you gotta love Betaflight. So we're back from Betaflight. As you can tell, I had to take a few things apart. Want to show you that LED
Welcome
real
to
quick
OpenTX.
as it's working. So we're gonna plug it in here. Okay. You can see that the LEDs are red, and as I up my throttle, it changes colors. Okay. And then the other thing is, let me set this over here so we can see what we're doing. So now with that pre-arm, we set that pre-arm up here on this switch right here. Okay. So when you arm it, that's not going to arm it. Okay. There's nothing going to happen when we do that. So what you have to do is pull up on that to make that pre-arm and Betaflight go forward. Then you can arm it. Okay. Without that pre-arm on, it won't arm. Okay. You flip that forward, you hear that beep, and it's saying, hey, I'm not going to arm, because you got to have that up. That's also our air mode switch. So we can, after we're armed, that's done. That pre-arm is finished. So we can hold that up to keep our air mode from turning on. Okay, and then when we take off and we're flying, we can let go of that, and then we got air mode on the whole time. But that way you can take your air mode off, and then you pull your throttle all the way down, and it'll sit quietly. So we arm it, we let it initialize, we can take off, and then once we're flying, we can let air mode go. Without the props and it all apart on the bench, it ain't gonna act right. But you get my drift. I can pull this switch off, and that takes off air mode with my throttle all the way down, the motor stop. That's how I like to do it. You can do it any way you want, but that's what I like to do, is have air mode on a switch. Okay? That's it. So we got our LEDs working with the throttle, and we have all our switches and everything set up. So the next thing to do is go ahead and I'm just going to button this all back up together, and then let's take off to the flight field and see what this little ripper can do. And here's in case you forgot, the props we're going to put on it. HQ 3x2s. So let's go out to the field and see what this baby will do. All right, so we're out here at the field. Just going to do some line of sight flying. It's a little bit windy, and it's about 30 degrees. So it's not ideal. I'm going to do a half throttle punch. All right. Full throttle punch. Oh, she sounds pretty good. Yeah, she's looking pretty good. Just letting you hear the motors and everything. All right, so let's jump in the goggles here and go for a rip. All right, we're gonna do our FPV. I'm just gonna show you real quick my PIDs. So there's all the PIDs that I got in there right now, and then I had to do a little bit of tuning. All right. She on the stock settings in 4.1, there was no way it would fly. It was stuttering and sputtering, and it was pretty bad. So had to do some tuning on that. And then also, after doing some tuning, I had put the JESC's 48 kilohertz on the BLLES, so that's done. I'm just kind of cruising around a little bit here. I had a car pull in. I just want to know where they're going. Nothing like coming around the corner and have somebody walk out on you. Still need some tuning though. There's a couple little jitters, like right there. I don't know if you can hear that. There is a lot of wind right now, but she's a battery eater. This is a 4S 650 milliamp battery, and it eats it up pretty quick. Not to mention it's 30 degrees out right now. That 650 tattoo recovers pretty quick, not too bad. Yeah, when it's warm out, we should have a lot better experience as far as battery life, because 30 degrees is pretty sketchy. Little prop wash, not too bad. Yeah, I'd say it's doing pretty good. It does a flip roll right now. Don't lose any altitude. I'll just kind of stop in my roll a little shy just to see if there, not a whole lot of bounce back. It sounds pretty clean. Yeah, not too bad. This battery's done. I'm gonna go ahead and pop a new battery in here. I was just gonna give you one flight, but I'm gonna pop another battery in here and really rip on this thing and see if we can melt the battery. So now that total arm time includes the line of sight flight, and we're recovered at 370. So yeah, I mean, I could fly some more. Let me go ahead and put a new battery in real quick. All right, get our second flight on. All right, man, a little windy, a little 30 degrees. Not an ideal situation. Just kind of looking for like mid throttle, just seeing if it hobbles and bobbles around. You get too much oscillation, you burn your motors up. too bad. She drops pretty quick. And yeah, the 1817 for hover, if you look in that top right corner, hovers at like 1617. 16, yeah, 17. So not much throttle to get it off the ground. Power to weight ratio on this thing is pretty amazing. Yeah, you do some adjusting there too. Yeah, I can't wait for a nice warm calm day where I can kick back with the laptop. It's pretty nice little ripper though. This stack is the SpedX IS100, and then the AKK Ultimate I think it's like FX3 Ultimate VTX. Yeah. One thing about this frame, I really like the frame. The iFlight iX3 version 3. It seemed to hold all the parts pretty nice, and it actually spreads the motors out a little bit further. It makes for a kind of a more of a stable, you know, you're just cruising along kind of thing. But yeah, it's a pretty nice frame. I'm happy to be able to use some camera tilt and not have my receiver stuck out on the top anymore. Yeah, I like it. I just wish my fingers weren't completely frozen. Ooh, come out of nowhere, didn't it? Oh, a little oscillation on that. Not too bad. She seems to fly pretty good. Let's turn on some music and rip out the rest of this pack. I'll probably run it down to 3.3 on flight. That way it rests at about 3.6. Yeah, I really appreciate you stopping by and checking out my channel and subscribing. I hope that this video is awesome, because I know it took me a long time to put together. But if you liked it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you hated it, give me a thumbs down. It all works. Enjoy the breeze.